bodybuilders, Greek god of Atlantis, holding the world on his shoulders. Okay, hello and welcome to another English podcast with Paul. I'm your host, Paul. Welcome. Turn up that dial, plug in your headphones, and if you're driving, focus on the road. But let's listen, let's practice some English pronunciation, and let's jump straight into it. So I said Greek god Atlas, holding the world on his shoulders. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's generally the picture of a really well chiseled man, a big muscular physique man, leaning over almost in a crouching position with a big world on his shoulders. So this is normally a statue or a picture. I think it was taken from a statue. All right. Bodybuilders, world's strongest man and deadlifting. What have they all got in common? The embodiment of masculinity or human pinnacle of physique. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of things to look at here and unwrap. But from the West, we have many famous people that we admire. We like listening to their motivational speeches. We pin up their pictures and we idolize these godlike images, these godlike people. So for example, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, and that Pumping Iron film, and his career is skyrocketed. But his physique, especially in the 80s and 90s, was outstanding. Many people in the streets would just stare at his body, want to touch his body if it's real, because other than the occasional TV or image, you would never be that close to something that looked godlike. You've seen your dad with no t-shirt on, you've seen your brother with no t-shirt on, maybe you might have seen a man on the beach, but generally most men had a regular, normal dad bod or just a body. But seeing somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger with those big muscles and chiseled abs and big thighs, you know, it's really unusual to see. And then when people touch those bodies, they think, yes, those muscles are hard and strong. And he seems to be very picturesque and photogenic with symmetry. So these people, and then you have the Mountain from the Game of Thrones. You know, he's really big, and then he's got huge muscles as well. Also won the world's strongest man many times. I don't know how many, 4 or 5 times. Okay, these larger than life characters. And now we have our own in the UK. We have Eddie Hall, the Beast. I watch a lot of his videos here on YouTube. He's an interesting character, so big, so strong. And he's just a really nice person. You might think that these people are difficult or prima donnas, but they are really nice people. They understand that they are human, the same as us, and they've chosen an area to push their career, and they've really pushed themselves, and they've sacrificed a lot. They've sacrificed in part their health, in part the same things that we would have with our families and friends, because they've been dedicated and focused on working hard, and maybe as well as parties and things like that, but maybe also sacrificed in other ways. I don't know, maybe smaller things or having to have bigger things, and the constant cost of the amount of food and rehabilitation, protein shakes, massages, sports therapy, the astronomical cost, and obviously flying to different countries for competitions. There's a lot of things involved. Deadlift. Who else we got? We also got, from my age and my era, Jeff Capes, one of the first British strongmen that I remember on the TV. And then we had, I think there was a wrestling guy back in the day, it was Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. They were big, strong men, but they didn't have the same physique. Maybe you might have seen Hulk Hogan back in the 80s and 90s. Again, he did have a physique, but he was a wrestler on the TV. And in the UK, you wouldn't see that kind of person. So yeah, the masculinity of human, what you could achieve, what you could become. What else we got? Yeah, godlike, strength, genetics. So these godlike physiques, these godlike people that we kind of adore or cherish, some people are actually very afraid and scared of these huge, great, big, strong men. But we'll get onto that in a moment. So yeah, they're extremely strong. You know, you might go to your dad or your husband to open a jar, but these guys can like rip up a telephone book. And I say that because that's what they used to do in the 70s and 80s, just to show their strength, you know, or bend a bar around their neck, that kind of thing, or fold a saucepan in half. They just had very big, strong muscles and arms and hands. But what about your health? What about their health? Are they the pinnacle of fitness? Genetics, are they all just really lucky? Is their genetics passed down from their ancestry, their what's the words I like to use? Genetics, ancestry. I can't think of the word right now. This happens. Maybe it's my age. But their genetics, it just maybe they're just completely something different altogether. Maybe we could never get that. I don't know. And the other thing that you got to bear in mind, I don't know whether it's all women think about it or whether it's subconscious. Because if we were in the caves, we would be thinking the strongest man, the biggest man, would be the alpha male, would be the leader. And other men would be behind him in his choice and pickings. They would get the second, third choice of pickings for food, from the kill, from hunting, or in regards to choice of female mate or whatever females that he wants. So we would be second or third. And that plays a lot in the psyche of us humans, to the point where many women, subconsciously or fully aware, they choose often a strong, big man. Now, you can see it in advertising and on TV and social media, prevalent, the masculine man with a chiseled, strong jaw and big shoulders and over 6 feet high. So a lot of men, a lot of women, when on dating apps, select the man must be over 6 foot tall. He must have a good income. He must have a athletic figure. So subconsciously or consciously, we put a lot of prestige and delight in a beautiful figure or a nice figure. I mean, I say beautiful figure. Some people don't like that figure. We'll get onto that in a moment. So other men would always desire or want that figure, because women seem to always want that figure, that big, strong, strapping man with energy. And because he's virile, we perceive him to be able to produce good children, able to be a good, strong lover in the bedroom. Virile. That's not really bandied around much in cultures where the men are much smaller or perceived to be weaker or shorter or older. You know, you don't think of the word virile when you see an elderly gentleman. So that plays a lot in the psyche of women and men alike. All right, let's dive in a bit more. So look at the pros and cons again, which is kind of my MO these days. Pros. So self-esteem. I'd imagine must be pretty good and again, fill you with confidence and positive affirmations. So going back to the virile and the godlike and the strength and the genetics, there are also a lot of studies to show and that prove that big, strong men with a chiseled chin and tall men are more likely to do better in politics and in business and many other parts of life. So obviously they tend to be better at sport, or they have an advantage at sport because of their physique and their size. So that's one advantage. Business and politics are, again, for some reason, maybe it's subconscious, are more likely to succeed in business and politics. And these studies prove this. So it is deep within our culture. Right, okay. So like I said, self-esteem and confidence, I imagine would really help. I remember as a child, a tall child, which I had a big family presence at school, and they were all very chiseled and handsome. And I remember feeling probably jealous of this child because he was, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, and he was already very tall and strong and wide and big and had a nice family and nice clothes. So it made an impression on me at such a young age. Interesting. Okay. Yet, on the other hand, my grandfather, who's still alive now, he's 96 years old. He's a very, very short man, probably 5'5". No, less than that. Maybe about 5'1". A very short man. He's extremely happy and positive and quite confident. Good self-esteem. There you go. Right, women. Well, I've kind of mentioned that already, that women generally, on the whole, probably 80% prefer a bigger, stronger man. Now, I said about my grandfather. My grandfather, his first wife and my mum's mum is quite tall. Probably 5'5", 5'8". Yeah, 5'8", something like that. So my granddad was short, but my grandmother was tall. My mum was very short as well. Interesting. But women in general, on the dating apps and in dating, want a tall, strong, big man. So like I said, my brother is short and my grandfather is short, but they both seem to be quite happy and content and not had a problem garnering support from their prospective suitors. So the women have been, I don't know, I want to say that the women have been of normal size and well, what I should say is taller than them. The women have always been taller than my grandfather or my brother. And so they don't seem to have a problem with self-esteem or confidence, and yet they seem to still be able to find mates with no problem. Jobs. Well, I've already mentioned politics and careers. They also say that many job applicants often go to a taller or bigger man than that, you know, if given the choice, because there's a perceived confidence and a perceived, I don't know, better person if you're big, tall and strong. Interesting that that's deep within our psyche. And like I said, I'm not making this up. These are backed up by studies. Other men. So other men are often jealous and envious of a chiseled man because of what it brings, what it offers. I don't know why society is like this. but you definitely have more doors open to you, more opportunities, more prospects if you are a tall, chiseled man. I said about sport already that there's obviously a genetic advantage physically for being bigger, in regards that you have more power, whether it be in your legs or your arms. So you'll find most sportsmen are often bigger than your average man. And the same for women. The one area I find sport is not necessarily an advantage to be big, but actually a disadvantage, would be if you're a cyclist. Being tall and slim is a bonus. And also if you're a jockey or horse racing jockey, then being very small is a huge advantage. So there are opportunities. Nowadays, other things such as skiing and less physically demanding, although people would argue skiing is physically demanding and being a jockey is physically demanding, more so on your cardiovascular system, your heart and lungs, and little less on your large muscles. So sport, that's another area where large men, big chiseled men tend to have a very big advantage. In general, in most sports, like I said, there are exceptions. Right, let's look at the cons, look at the negative aspects, look at the negative sides of this. So, health. We've mentioned already some of these really big guys that are really, really super strong. That comes at a cost to their health. Over the years, you cannot perform at elite level for many, many, many decades. Obviously, everybody's body becomes deteriorated over the years and you're not able to put out that same power. So your health will diminish. The more demand you put on your body, the more your body is going to diminish as you get older. So a lot of these sportsmen and women have a short a short career. For example, you could be retired by the age of 50 in some sports, and yet your average working person would still be working until 75, 76, 77, depending on your country. And in other cultures and other parts of the world, you may not ever retire, in regards to you just keep going and give value to your community in other ways. So health, your joints can become worn out, your ligaments and muscles can become all worn out, your heart can be stressed, your lungs can be stressed, even mental fatigue from that high level of competition can really have an impact on your body and its health in the later years. You may not live long in the later years because you've been a sportsman or sportswoman. Okay, so that's one negative aspect. Body dysmorphia. When you look in the mirror and you don't see your body, you see something, or your brain perceives you to see something that's not actual there. Whether you are a slim person, you can get body dysmorphia, see in the mirror somebody very fat staring back at you. Or whether you think you're never going to be big enough with your muscles and not there. That's a very big topic that we're not going to get into right now, but very interesting. Target to others. So often, if there's, in my culture here in the UK, a lot of men like to exercise their testosterone and their vitality and their virility by being strong, masculine men. And sometimes that's fueled by alcohol. And with the alcohol comes short tempers and people's pride and people's confusion with the alcohol of being berated or upset or in some way hurt or wronged by another individual in this setting where alcohol is consumed. And so it's very, very prevalent in my country to see pubs with men fighting outside. And more often now, women are fighting outside the pub. It's a very unsettling and negative thing to see and observe, a very childish behavior that's, like I said, fueled with alcohol. Many places in my country, you would not take children or your grandmother to visit, especially after a certain time of the day into the evening. They're just not safe because there's a lot of men that like to fight, you know, have some alcohol and then they get quite happy with their fists because it gives them the sense of feeling strong, valued and worthy, whether that's of their peers or themselves. I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. But I don't drink alcohol, and I haven't done since I was a teenager. So I've missed a lot of that, thankfully, a lot of that attitude. And so often a big man will be a target. It'll be like a prize. If you're a smaller guy and you see a big man, you think, well, if I get into a fight with him and he wins, he's a bigger guy. So what? I lost to a bigger guy. Never mind. But if you win, it really inflates your ego and makes you feel amazing. I beat up a bigger man than me, which kind of means that you're better than he is because you were able to beat him in a fight. Whether or not it's fair, unfair, whether alcohol was involved, whether the person was looking or ready or any of the above seems to be irrelevant with the idea of a bigger man being a target. So a bigger man is often fair game for a fight. He's bigger. He's probably had lots of fights. I think I can knock him out. I think I can beat him up. That seems to be common in the UK. Like I said, especially around alcohol, and it's very immature and is really the sad part of English culture that I'm not proud of. Don't get me started on talking about football. Ugh. Anyway, right, I don't want to digress. Let's stay on topic. A piece of meat. So also, if you're a big guy with a lovely chiseled body, you may feel that you are not valued for who you are as a human and for your brain and your mind and your personality and just a piece of meat. Like I said before, on some of these dating apps and dating sites, women really desire and fantasize about having a man that's big and burly and chiseled and muscular as a sex object, you know, in their fantasies or in real life, and they want these things. This is a shallow and flawed system for choosing a mate, I know. But there seems to be a huge desire and a huge demand for chiseled men, especially in dating. And so some men just feel like a piece of meat, likewise for women. And that's very sad. Right, psychological health, not having a figure, magazines, social media, genetics, height, not having the knowledge to improve your body. Right, so these are in my notes here. These are other aspects that play a big part. The psychological health of a man that's got big muscles and big chiseled and all that can often get himself ahead in his career or ahead in life. But sometimes they don't feel like they deserve it or earned it, or they don't know why they've earned it or why they've got it. And so they feel a bit lost, a bit emptied, and have difficulty in feeling that they have an advantage or that they're valued, truly valued for who they are. So that can mess around a lot with a man's mental health. Right, what else we got? We talked about genetics and height. You can, if you have the money, get your height increased. You can, well, let's not talk about shoes. Men can wear heels on their shoes, whether it's Tom Cruise or whether it's Richard Hammond. These shorter men have heels on their shoes. But you can pay to surgically get your leg bones cut and then put on like a frame, like you've broken your leg. We often get a frame to fix the tibia and fibula to help them refuse. And so you can get this frame, and I think it takes 6 months to a year for your body to heal after a fracture, after a break. And so you go to a hospital, they give you anesthetic or put you under, they break your legs, and then they put your leg in a frame, and then you go back for consultations and physiotherapy. And I think, from what I understand, that you're able to, with the screws on this frame, actually stretch the distance between your foot and your knee, where the break is in the middle, and stretch this frame out with the screws. And so you can gain 1 to 2 inches per surgery that you go into, and the following year or 6 months to recover. And as far as I'm aware, you can do this 2 or 3 times. So in a 5-year period, you could potentially grow 5 inches. I don't know what the ramifications are or drawbacks of this are. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's true, and it is a thing that you can pay for. You obviously spend a lot of time in a wheelchair and in pain and rehabilitating yourself and things like this. But, you know, if you want to pay the money and you want to go through that, then you might think it's worth it. Other women go through breast enlargement because they feel it's worth it. Interesting. Okay. Magazines, genetics, height. So I was mentioning about height. I've already talked about genetics. Magazines and TV and social media really play a big part in society's view of big, strong, chiseled men. You know, sex sells, as they say in the advertising industry. Sex sells. If you have a car that you want to sell, you put a beautiful woman on it and then have it driven by a handsome man, and they will sell, because our deep psychological belief that if we have this item, then we will be looked on as that handsome, strong man and be able to gain that beautiful woman to become our mate. That is kind of the premise of a lot of advertising, especially in the 80s and 90s. So it's deep within our psyche. Social media, TV, regular media really play on that and push it quite far, to the point where we have this dysmorphia of our own bodies, or this unloving of our own body. Even so, playing devil's advocate again, all the way to the other extreme now, in the 2020s, where even if you're obese, you should love your body, according to some advertising agencies. Obviously, being obese is unhealthy and going to increase your risks of disease and heart failure and other organ failure. So being obese is very, very bad for your longevity and your health. But there are advertising agencies out there that are love your body no matter what size you are, body beautiful and things like this, which, like I said, is the other extreme. Madness. Okay. So in summary then, let's wrap this up. The last thing then, so in summary, let's wrap this up. And what I want to talk about is there are a lot of parallels to like the 80s and 90s with these bunny girls, these girls that had to be very slim and wear bikinis and other small clothing to cover themselves up to make them legally acceptable on TV and in person. These supermodels often had to be weighed and not allowed over a certain weight. If they were, they would get sacked and get kicked out. Whether it was modeling, whether it was in a hotel or a casino. So there was a lot of strict rules about the weight of women back in the 80s and 90s, and even air hostesses and things like that. So there are some parallels with that. So, because that often caused other issues to come about, like bulimia or anorexia, and that kind of problems. My wife also is very slim. And so when she was younger in the 80s and 90s, she also had a lot of flack, a lot of hassle from other people because she was very, very slim. And so people feel that they can shout at you and tell you, well, what they believe and their opinion on your body and size. And that has an impact on a person. You know, we are all human. If people are going to start shouting at you to say you're, you know, too big or too small, that can make one feel upset and take that to heart and make you feel bad and affect your confidence and self-esteem. So it's not just fat people that get shamed and get abuse. Also very, very slim people get abuse. So next time you see a slim person, don't be shouting at them that they're skinny. Right, where we're saying parallels with supermodels and issues back of the 80s and 90s, the psychological issues. Well, I've covered most of that. So all in all, it's about they try to do this, these models and these men getting so big, not just for themselves and their self-esteem, although that can be part of it, and their career, but also part of it is to inspire other people. Many people were inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and people of today are inspired by Eddie Hall. And myself was inspired by Jeff Capes and Big Daddy and Hulk Hogan and the people of the 80s and 90s and Mike Tyson and people like this. Inspiration to feel like we can achieve and we can become the same as everybody else. It was uplifting and a positive attitude. Now, where the problem comes, and this is where I'm wrapping up my summary, is it all depends on your own personal life issues. Whether you get through your issues and you're a balanced individual, then seeing a male body with big muscles can be inspirational. And on the other hand, if you're feeling very low and depressed and having a lot of other mental health issues, seeing that body could make you feel worse and feel useless and worthless and make you feel even more bad about yourself. So all these people that are trying to inspire are doing it from the goodness of their heart. They're not trying to make anyone feel bad. It's all about whether you are a balanced and healthy minded person at the time when you see these images. And yes, it can be taken too far. And that's for an individual to choose. I know some women that do not like a big, strong, strapping man because they feel for their lives. The idea of my wife being with me, and I said I'm not super tall, I'm under 6 foot, my wife doesn't feel as threatened for her life. Like if I was unconscious and I fell on her, I'm not going to break her when I fall on her if I weigh 10, 11, 12 stone. But if you're a big muscular man and you weigh 25 stone, or like Eddie Hall, nearly 30 stone, and you collapse or you faint or you get an electric shock and you land on your wife, that's going to have some serious consequences if you fall on somebody. And some of these athletes are aware of that and they're very sportsmanlike. For example, basketball players often, when they go into the crowd, they will try to protect children and move themselves or hurt themselves by trying to protect the children in the crowd. So being aware you're a big, strong man has consequences for potentially hurting others. So all in all, it's about balance. These people are trying to inspire us, entertain us, and fulfill their own goals and their own future and their career. So that's it really. That's how I feel. Not everybody is meant to be a big, strong man. And it doesn't matter if you're a big, strong man or if you're a small, tiny person. It's just about being balanced and happy with who you are, and that you're living the healthiest and happiest way that you can to prolong your life and to be a positive role model to other people. That's the way I feel about it. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments. If you've had some traumatic or interesting stories about some of these issues, mention it in the comments below. Let me know. Are you a person who's overweight? Are you a person who's underweight? And are you a big, strong man with muscles? I would love to hear from you. I really would. Put a message in the comments. Reach out. We can have a conversation. I'd really like that. Okay, that's all we've got time for today. As always, enjoy loving English and always keep learning and listening. Have fun. See you in the next video.